Today on the Homeboys podcast, we are talking with Ricky Carruth.
Man, once you climb that mountain, you get to the top. What else is there?
He pulls the curtain back and shows you what work ethic made this all possible.
The universe is only going to give you as much as you can handle.
We also cover some great advice for anyone looking to get into real estate.
Understanding that conversation is the key to all closings.
Stay tuned. You're kicking it with the Homeboys. Hey everybody, you're kicking it with the Homeboys and the Homeboys podcast. We're very excited to bring you a special guest today. We are talking real estate and beyond with Ricky Carruth. He's got a really big following out there on social media, and Scotty and I have dove into a lot of his videos. He's a really smart guy, and we're very excited to get some of his insights on real estate and beyond today. So, without further ado, Ricky, how are you, my friend?
What's up, guys?
It's good to have you. We thank you for coming on today.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. I always love hanging out with the Homeboys.
We're just getting kind of our feet underneath of us with some special guests. So we're very honored to have you on our show. We love talking real estate. Scotty and I have been doing this for a very long time. But it's always good to have like-minded people on like you to learn and grow and share with our listeners. So again, it's an honor to have you on.
Yeah.
So likewise, man. I love getting together with people and chatting it up, man.
Yeah, it's a topic that sadly, my wife is bored of. Otherwise, I would talk about it in all areas of my life. But when I go home, that's about the only area that the time it's off limits. So tell us a little bit about your backstory and kind of your history.
No, it's pretty storybook. It's 20 years in the business. Grew up roofing houses. Made a bunch of money when the market exploded in the early 2000s, lost it all, went back to roofing. I took everything I learned during that time and came back and just crushed it. I got to where I was selling 100 properties a year, single agent, number one in Alabama and for a while. And then 5 years ago, 2017, I was like, I'm with the way that I built the business is pretty unique because I saw the other coaches and trainers and even brokers out there really, teaching that close the deal type mentality, and, after going through everything I went through, I realized that really wasn't the way to build big business, and so I was like, this is a little different. I want to try to make this mainstream. So I just started coaching for free. I started building social media and putting out content, wrote a couple books, started speaking, and it just really took off. And so it's been a really cool ride, and I'm still selling. I've kind of stepped, 1 foot out of production at this point and just focusing more on the speaking, writing, coaching, building other businesses and stuff like that, which I'm a lot more passionate about. Honestly, I've 20 years of selling, and the last 8 years I did 100 deals a year. I got really kind of burnt out, and I think a lot of agents are going to run into that. They get into this career and it's a lot better than the job they had, but at the end of the day, they don't realize after a good 10, 20 years it's going to go by, they're going to get burnt out on it, and they need to kind of prepare and plan for what that next chapter is going to be, not as a new agent. As a new agent, you need to really focus on just really blowing up real estate. But as you do blow it up and, you give it a good 5, 10, 15-year run, what's next? You know what I mean? A lot of people, it comes to them. For me, it was coaching and getting into that side of it. And then through that personal branding, now being able to build other businesses on top of the brand is super interesting. And it's fun. I'm having fun. This is, I'm working just as hard. I'm not harder than I ever worked, but helping a lot of people. So that's kind of where I'm at up to this point. And moving forward, I'm just trying to just continue building, build the empire. And the goal is, to reduce the failure rate in the industry, through
Interesting.
So many different strategies and channels and stuff.
I find it interesting that you're so upfront about the concept that most people who get their real estate license think of it as only one thing, that you will be a realtor, listing, selling houses, doing it yourself. But you seem to really
comes from
push.
Experience.
You're right.
I thought I'd sell forever. I was a single agent forever, and I tried to build a team, and to me, that's a losing battle, honestly. And you work harder on that than you would your business, and probably make more money being a single agent. That's what I did. There's been guys that have put it together, but at the end of the day, you're still not able to walk away. You're still going to have to do stuff. You can build that corporation style, but I thought I'd always sell. I think you're going to sell until the day that you don't. You realize that it's not. I put it like this: I saw and stood by and watched guys that were in their late 70s literally make phone calls till 3 days before they died.
Yeah.
Calling expireds and for sale by owners and everything else. And I watched and saw that with my own two eyes.
Yeah.
You talk about being burnt out, and I want you to kind of explain that, because I think Scotty and I can even speak from our standpoint. We're building 500 apartments right now, and we've I don't know. There's lots of moving pieces to what we do, and it's easy to get burnt out. What do you think led to you getting burnt out as a real estate agent? Was it the late nights? Was it family, responsibilities, or was it just you wanted something different?
Yeah, wanted something different. You just get bored. I mean, once you climb that mountain, you get to the top. What else is there? And it just kind of becomes monotonous. There's nothing. You're not really chasing anything at that point. It's you've already peaked. You've already hit the top. There's nowhere else to go. When you get to that part, that's when I started looking around and saying, okay, what can I do? Because in 2017, that was the first year I made $1 million, and that was the year that I quit prospecting altogether. And so I spent all this time building my business prospecting, and then when you get to that point, once you build your business up to the point where you're making the amount of money you want to make, you don't have to prospect anymore. You can live off your database and maintain that level of volume. That's where a lot of agents go wrong. They'll get up to 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, and then they'll just kind of live off their database, and they wonder why they can't get past 200, 300,000, and they just do 300,000 every year. It's because they're not growing their database anymore. They're just living off their database. And so you have to continue building to get to the point that, so I was build all the way to $1 million. That was the goal. And then when I hit it, that was it. So I hit $1 million every year since, with no prospecting, just, off the database. And so there's light at the end of the tunnel with this stuff. A lot of people think I got to prospect till I die, like these guys I was talking about. But if you do it right and you remarket to people correctly, you can build something where, 5 years, into it, if you've built a database of 5 or 10,000 people you've talked to, real people, and you're remarketing them properly, you don't have to make any more calls ever again. You're just servicing your clients and referrals and stuff like that. And it's a great place to be, because those prospects and repeats and referrals, they're not calling 3 agents and interviewing 3 agents. They're calling 1 agent, and you're basically just servicing them, and they've already decided that you're going to be the agent they're going to go with. So it's a real beautiful place to be. But yeah, it's just a matter of reaching the top and then saying, what's next? Well, there's nothing else left. I've already, turned over every rock. So what can I do now? And so that's when I wrote 2 books that year, 2017, and started coaching and writing and speaking. And I think it's just like the next chapter. It's like I got bored, honestly. That's the burnout part of it is, up until early this year, I was really involved in production. I was still showing houses and listing appointments and negotiations and everything else that I don't do anymore. And so, 2017 was the year I cut that prospecting, knob and quit doing that, started coaching. And then, 5 more years and I'm still showing houses and stuff, And so obviously I was bored with it in 2017. That's why I started doing other things. But then 5 more years of it being bored, it just finally got to the point, fellas, where I was just done, where I was cringing every time a client was calling me. So that's when And I was just ready to kind of hang it up. My dad handles all the sales now. He still likes doing it. So, he handles all that side of the business, and I'm able to work on these other things that he's also involved in and kind of help build our business on this end. And, he continues to be on the front end of that. So it's a pretty good setup, but
Well, I
man, I
find
think
it
everybody's different.
It's pretty neat that you were able to build your business to that point where it was successful enough that you can say, I not only have I reached the mountaintop, but I'm also bored. And I think that's unusual. I'm coming up on, in this September, it'll be my 25th, my year 25 being licensed. Licensed realtor. I just did the math as you were talking.
I wouldn't even throw that number out there.
I know,
because then people do the math.
I know, I'm old.
Yeah.
but I've seen a lot of market cycles, obviously, and I wonder about this market cycle we're coming into with everything cooling off because the Fed's dumping a bucket of ice water on the housing market. Well, what do you have to say for realtors who have ridden this elevator ride up for the last 5 years and have only seen that type of market? What are you suggesting for those kind of folks, what they focus on right now?
Well, it's tough because they don't understand the flip side of it. It's kind of like me when I got in 2002. I was kind of born into that really hot market, and I didn't understand.
That was my first year in the real estate business also.
Yeah, I didn't understand, what the cycles were, right? I was only born into, that really hot market. So that's all I knew. And so that's how I thought real estate was done. I didn't know there was anything different. So when everything crashed and burned, I totally crashed and burned, because, I wasn't expecting it because that's all I knew. Same thing right now. These agents that have only seen it. But for me, it's like last year, there were 6.1 million transactions, of course, but man, was it tough. I mean, buyers competing, with so many other buyers and such low inventory. I mean, a lot of transactions, but man, there was a lot of competition in terms of, not agents against agents, but just buyers against buyers, against the few listings that would come out. And, one reason there were so many few listings is because they were selling so fast. You couldn't keep a listing on the market, but, if you could, honestly, for me, like I look at that market and I think, man, if you could make it during that time, you can make it through anything, and this year is a lot easier, honestly, I mean, it looks like we're going to have about 4.8 million transactions, which is 20% down, but in 2008, we had 4 million transactions. So still got a long way to go to get to those numbers. But even in that time, there was that 4 million, so many. I mean, that's 8 million buyers 4 million buyers, 4 million sellers. That's 8 million opportunities, people that use a real estate agent to do a deal. Like right now, 4.8, that's what, 9 or whatever the case may be, million opportunities in the country. So I think agents need to take a step back and just kind of reevaluate their philosophies around the market and, do some data digging, right? Go in their MLS and look at every single day how many closings are happening every single day, right? And again, you multiply those times two, there's a buyer and seller on every deal, and just realize how abundant the deals are. I mean, honestly, there's enough deals. I mean, and the thing that people don't understand, we're in a society where people want everything so fast. So like back in the day when we used to have to plant food to eat, remember that? So those people back there in the entire society, they understood that when you planted the seed, then you had to harvest, and it was going to be a long while, a season before you actually got to eat the food from that seed, right? And so in today's world, everybody wants to plant the seed and then harvest the next day. And they've society overall has kind of lost touch with that nurturing process, the in between planting and harvesting, right? And they have to understand that in real estate, it's not contract to close. I mean, hell, I could take on 50 contracts right now. Like servicing the contracts, that's easy. That's the easy part. But where it really is relationship created to close, right? The relationship created is that seed that's planted, and then the nurturing that relationship till the day they decide to do a deal. The deal part's easy. A lot of agents are like, "Oh, I put it like this: if an agent's closing, say, they've closed like 3 deals this year, let's say, right? They're a brand new agent. My response is that's all you can handle. The universe is only going to give you as much as you can handle, right? Because here's the thing, there's unlimited deals. And the fact that you're not doing any more deals than you're doing means that you just can't handle anymore. Oh, no, I can handle deals. I can, give me a deal. I can handle it. No, that's not the thing. The thing is the creating the relationship. See, that's the work part of it, is putting the work in to get to the conversation, and then having the skill level of communication to create the relationship, but then nurturing the relationship till they decide to do something. See, that's where all the work is. Contract to close, I can handle 100 of those at a time, but putting in the work to create enough relationships to cultivate 100 deals, that's a lot of work, and nobody wants to talk about that part of it. It's just like, oh, I can handle them. No, you can't handle any more deals, because obviously you're not willing to put the work in to go find the people, to have the conversations, to create the relationships, to create the deals.
Well, that's what creates a successful real estate agent. I mean, it's all prospecting, right? I mean, a lot of people can learn, how to show people, houses, or analyze deals, or, even all the paperwork with it. But, being able to, using an old man's terms, have that Rolodex, is the hardest thing. And I think a lot of real estate agents, say, hey, I'm going to get into the business, and I'm going to go take some desk time at a major brokerage. I'm going to wait for the phone to ring, and I'm going to, that's how I'm going to do it. It's a lot more difficult than that.
But also for a lot of our clients who are real estate investors, what we were just talking about before the podcast is we're seeing a cooling off of these investors on buying. And so we're doing some incentives to help them. And it makes me realize how short-sighted people are just in every aspect of real estate. Instead of looking at the big picture and the long goals and how you build it more a 10, 20, 30-year plan, it kind of applies to that too. Mm-hmm. It's people I feel like are too short-sighted with this, and are worried about each transaction as a transaction, where, when you've reached our point in our careers, I mean, a transaction, they're all important, but they're meaningless to us. We're so disconnected from that part that people get too caught up in the details of it instead of the big picture, in my opinion.
Well, if you're gonna be a massive agent that has all this great success, you're gonna do 1,000 deals, 2,000 deals, something like that in your career. One deal is not going to be nowhere even close to the make it or break it for you in your career, But yeah, it is about prospecting, but it's also about skill level of communication, right? And what the intentions are and what the objective is of that prospecting avenue. And, all prospecting avenues work, every single one of them, and that's another problem. People try to do 15 things, and really you need to narrow it down to 2 things that work really well and go all in. And whatever those things are, it can be cold calling or open houses or social media or Zillow. I mean, all of it works. Anything that puts you in a conversation with someone, it works. But one of the problems is people don't understand that real life conversation is the gatekeeper to all closing. So they sidestep that part, do everything else, and they don't realize that whatever they're doing needs to create at least 10 conversations a day that they can convert into 5 great conversations. Because when you think about the little things that add up over time, if you have 5 great conversations a day, you collect their information, remarket to them, and whatever your system is for that, 250 working days a year, you got 6,000 people in your market over 5 years. You're probably the number one agent in your market at that point. I mean, I've seen a lot of agents, take this and become the top agents in their market over just making 5 new friends a day with property owners in their market, collecting the information, remarketing them properly. It's really easy stuff. Now what's interesting is when you think about it, say you prospect 4 days a week, let's say, And you don't prospect one of those days, you prospect 3 days. Well, if you skip that prospecting session that week, if you're showing property, that's legit. You can skip it for something legit, but most people are skipping it just because they don't feel like it, and it's very insignificant. So if you skip the call session, your business doesn't change at all that week. Same thing if you eat a hamburger today, right? You don't look any different tomorrow. But if you skip that call session every week for a year, that's 52 call sessions. Multiply that times the 5 people you'd made friends with. What's that? 250, 260 people that would have been in your database. It's not just from that insignificant little thing that you skip. These insignificant little things that are easy not to do and so easy to do. That's what gets people. They don't have this long-term vision. It's like anything else. And the people that understand, that can see 5 years out and understand the little things today add up to those big 5-year results, they're very patient people. They're like myself.
I'm curious, we're talking about prospecting. Are people still having success with open houses?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, everything works, man.
Really?
All right. I'm not going to sit here and tell you something doesn't work, or you need to do this, you need to do that. There's people that crush it with open houses. There's people that crush it with Zillow leads and Facebook leads and cold calling and networking events, and everything works, right? You got to figure out what works best for you, and whatever that is, better be creating 10 conversations, real life conversations with the type of people who own the type of property you want to sell or whatever. It needs to be niched out. Like if you want to go and get into luxury, go talk to 10 luxury property owners every day. And then the level of your communication skills is going to determine if you're actually going to have 5 great conversations out of those 10. If you want to do commercial, go talk to 10 commercial owners every day. If you want to do, if you want to build a brokerage, go talk to 10 agents a day. Whatever it is, but when you talk to those 10 people and you have those 5 great conversations, that doesn't change your business at all. It's after doing it for years is where your business really dramatically changes. And that's the problem right there. It takes agents I think the average is like 6 months to your first deal or something like that. And it's still
right.
After, it was like that back when I was in 2002, and it's still like that today. Even with all the great advancements in technology and stuff. How is that?
Right.
Wouldn't you think that'd speed the process up just a tad, with all the information people have and how easy it is to communicate and stuff like that? Yeah, you got some agents that come in and sell their first month and stuff like that, but we're talking averages here. And it's just, the process is such a lag, in real estate. And most people just can't, they can't stomach the emotional ups and downs and how long the process really takes.
Yeah, it's a long runway. It's a long runway to build up your business. Like you said, it's a long runway, and it's relational. And these are big transactions. You're not selling trinkets that you can sell 2 of your first day. This is the biggest This is the biggest spend most people will ever have in their lives, is buying their home. And so it's understandable that runway is so long. But like you said, if it's done right and you treat this like a business, you hit your front door every day and you go out there and work it, it can be done. But a lot of these agents who have kind of had the easy ride over the last few years, I feel like, are going to need folks like you to really start paying attention to what you're putting out there, and these systems that you believe in and preach about that help agents not only grow but will be able to sustain them through different market conditions, because the market conditions are changing right now, and maybe
they're always changing though.
Yeah,
right?
true.
So
true.
2018 was different than 2019 to 2020, 21, 22. Next year it'll be different. 24 will be different.
Right.
It's always different.
Sometimes
every year.
It's more dramatic or drastic during certain periods.
Those dramatic swings, though, are such a positive moment, though, for agents.
I agree.
All right, it's such an opportunity every single time. So no, people need to get their philosophies in check with the way that they view the business, the industry, their career, their market cycles. They need to get that in check, and then once you understand, okay, 5 new friends a day for 5 years and I'm home free, it doesn't matter what the market does. Now we got to put our systems in place. How are we going to remarket to these people? How are we going to come in contact with these people? And I think that, I'm like the oldest millennial in the world. So I grew up with no social media. But I'm young enough to understand how to use it. Hence why we're here right now. So the reason why I was such a dangerous agent is because I understood like the hard knocks, sit down and make calls all day, part of the business. But then I also understood the tech side. And so I was the best of both worlds. And I think that's something that agents need to think about is how can I, utilize social media, but then also stay on the phone, right? Having conversation after conversation after conversation after conversation with people that may do business with me now or in the future, and just build that thing up on the back of a really strong work ethic. It's complex, man. It takes a special person to be a real estate agent. You got to kind of have a perfect little it factor mix of a lot of different things.
I think you said something that I find intriguing. So you talk about the tech side of being a real estate agent, and then you also talk about being on the phone. And I can't really speak for, 25-year-old real estate agent, but I got to think most of the younger generation looking to get into real estate doesn't think about banging out 4, 5, 6 hour phone blocks, that they're probably more focused on the social media side of things, or Zillow, or can you speak on that, like the mix between, tech and still banging out the phones? I think there's going to be a lot of people that find it useful, hearing you talk about how much you're on the phone.
Well, you need to be on the phone about 3 hours a day, just straight prospecting. And, for me, I understood conversation was the gatekeeper of all closings pretty early. So, I could go and spend $100 per lead on Zillow, or, do open houses and stuff like that. Or I could just get all the property owners' phone numbers for literally pennies and just start calling people and have these conversations. So for me, it was kind of a hack. Instead of going through all this, here's the conversation, and then you have all these activities that lead right back to the conversation. Social media, it's got to filter to a conversation. Open houses, conversation, networking, conversation. Every single little thing comes back to conversation. So instead of spending time and money on all these activities that come back to the same thing anyway, I just said, well, I'll just sit here and skip all that and just have conversations. And so even through all the technological boom we've had and all this stuff and all the different, gizmos and gadgets and websites and software and lead gen tools and all this stuff, I just still feel like the entire thing is a hack for me, the way that I do it, because, if you call a Zillow lead, right, or let's say you do a video, people have an idea of who you are and how you sound and your voice and your mannerisms. Until they talk to you and see how you interact with them, they're still not sold on you. And at that point, if you don't have communication skills, you lost. No matter how you slice it up, you got to be good at talking to people. So you can't get around that either. So again, as I break it down, it's like, let me just work on my communication skills that I'm going to have anyway. And then I'll just call people out of the blue and make friends with them, because that's what I'm going to have to do anyway. And I can do that for pennies rather than spend all this time, money, and energy doing all these other things that come right back to the same thing. I get a Zillow lead, I got to call them. I get an open house, I got to make a list of people that came through the door. The next day, sit down, call them. Everything comes back to making a list of people to call. Facebook leads, lead. The next day, call. I'm just calling people. If I'm not calling, nothing's going to happen. And if I'm a team, then I've got somebody calling leads for me. It's all coming back to real conversations. So with technology and what you're saying and social media and the younger generation and everything, they have to understand this, A, and then B, understand how to use social media to get to the conversation. For me, since social media is free and you can really touch a lot of people for nothing, it just costs you time. it's a work in progress. You're not just going to put out a video and then everything's going to happen for you. And you're not just going to make phone calls and everything's going to happen for you. You have to practice at this stuff that you get good at over time. But, for me, if I were a new agent right now, I would just cold call people and I would create content for social. I would do both. I'd be I would engage on both fronts. And I would use social to try to funnel back to phone calls, and I think a lot of people are using social to funnel back to hopefully somebody calls them, right? And that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is the problem with real estate agents on social, are that hopefully leads just pour in, and then what are you going to do with them? Well, you got to call them now, right? But leads don't just pour in. Leads trickle in, one here, one there, whatever, unless you're paying for ads, and that's a whole different conversation with the real, true process that you have to put together there. That's a long drawn out process.
And Scotty and I don't know, because it's not part of our business. But when you're talking about ads and Zillow leads, you're talking massive money, aren't you?
I mean, there's guys spending $1 million a year.
I know of one on Zillow. I know of one a half a mile down the street from our office.
I mean, what would you guys say is a Zillow lead? What's the cost of a Zillow lead?
I mean, I have no idea.
No idea. Yeah,
I have no clue. It's not. It doesn't really factor in, to our business. But I mean, I've
heard everything from $100 to $300 to $1,000. I've heard all kinds of.
We bought Zillow like a zip code one time for some agent that we had. Mm-hmm. Yeah. To bring some agents in.
But that's
but that's not our business. So we don't.
The thing is okay, let's say you're a team leader, right? You got this team. And, you got ISAs and buyer agents and all this stuff. You got to keep them busy. You got to get some leads coming in. Well, instead of spending $100 per lead or whatever, why wouldn't you spend $100 on, 10,000 property owners' phone numbers?
Right.
Or whatever that comes out to.
We had
Geo Leads Plus on Red-X. You can get 7,500 per month for, I think it's $120. 7,500 property owners that you choose for like less than 2 cents. It's like 1.5 cents per, per property owner. So there's a 10% pickup rate. So now you're at 15 cents per pickup. And then 1 out of 2 is a great conversation. You're at 30 cents per great conversation with the exact property owner. Zillow is giving you random people in your market's contact information for $100. You don't know what they own, if they're renting, what they're doing. Over here, exact person you want to talk to, great conversation, 30 cents. Let's say those numbers, let's say you're horrible at it and it's $1 per great conversation, right? Let's say it's 3 times worse than what I'm saying. $1 per great conversation, not lead that came in that didn't answer. The conversation's over. You had the conversation. You had a great conversation. They own the exact property you want to sell, whether it's commercial, luxury, low end, high end, mid, whatever. It doesn't make any sense to me. So for a team leader, I don't know why all the team leaders don't just say, here's 7,500 property owners per month for $100. Knock yourself out, team. Call them till your ears bleed. Let's call around our listing. Let's call about our listings. Let's call for buyers we can't find properties for, and have little projects for your team to go out and conquer these subdivisions and stuff for literally pennies. You spend $100, for all the leads you can handle. It's nuts.
It's great info.
Yeah, that's really good info. I find it interesting the way you break kind of specialties out too. We had a couple of agents back in the day who had a little niche that was for veterans, and through the VA they got a bunch of leads and other things. But there's all kinds of niches, like you said, that if for your agents to focus on. How do you feel about a shotgun approach, where you just go after anything you can, or do you think each agent should go after a kind of their niche and kind of stick to a product, or what do you preach?
I think they should just tackle it niche at a time. When you're new, I think you should start out with the average price of your market. That's the best bang for your buck. That's going to be your highest, price. It's going to be the best ROI on your time. When you get into the higher luxury stuff, that's way over the average price of the market. That stuff tends to be a hit or miss and take longer to sell and stuff like that. But you still want to get into that, but you start at the average price of the market and really, get some momentum there before you start kind of dabbling into these other niches. But no, I think listen, as a new agent, you should kind of be in a shotgun approach style in the beginning. Like all your sphere, call all the for sale by owners, call all the expireds, call every subdivision you can, do all the social media stuff, like do it all. Because in the beginning, not only are you trying to get to that first deal as quick as you can, but you're still in discovery mode as well to see what two best prospecting methods work best for you that you can go all in on and throw everything else away.
I think there's going to be agents out there who don't even know about the concept of calling all expireds because nothing was expiring over the last few years in a lot of markets.
It doesn't matter if nothing was expired because you can go back 10 years worth of expires, withdrawals, and canceleds, and you got 10 years worth, and you call them. Hey, saw your house was on the market a couple years ago. Whatever happened with that? Yeah. Boom, they tell you a story. They tell you if they resold it, what they're doing now, where they're moving, what they're doing. Oh, you got an agent? I'd love to help you. Boom. Those have always been the best calls for me, those old expireds, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. It doesn't matter if nothing was expiring. You got to get creative. You can't just say, oh, there's no expired. So, well, what about all the people that expired last year and the year before and the year before who, oh, well, they might have resold. Who gives a shit?
Right.
They own the property. If they sold, they bought something else. They're living somewhere else. They invested somewhere else. They're thinking about doing something now, right? A lead is any human in your market. All right. If just get me on the phone with a human that's in my market and let me see how they're doing, get to know them and what their real estate plans are, and if they already have an agent they're working with. That's all I need.
I love it. You're a bulldog. You don't take no. I've noticed. It sounds like you don't take no. And if someone tells you something, well, this is why I don't call expireds. You have an answer for it. And it's that mindset that I think that we see in a lot of successful people in the real estate industry, which is you don't give up because you're going to hear no over and over. There's always going to be a reason why something doesn't work. There's always going to be a reason why it's hard.
Yeah. He's got a wedding ring on, so he takes no from time to time.
Yeah.
But that's the same thing with a lot of agents. Like the agents last year that were complaining about no inventory, those same agents are complaining about too much inventory this year.
Right.
You got the agents who go from brokerage to brokerage and blame each brokerage every time they leave that the last brokerage is the reason why they didn't succeed.
Yeah.
Right. So winners are going to win in any market and they're going to win at any brokerage. And that's just the bottom line. If you're a winner, you're winning. And if you're a loser, then you have this losing mentality that, things aren't going to work out and the market's this and that, or, your brokerage didn't do this. That's loser talk.
Right.
I love it.
Well, we always close with a few questions, but I want to ask first, just so our listeners know, tell us your books where they can find you.
Dude, the best place for me, I got a big following on YouTube and Instagram and all that stuff, but the best place is Instagram, really, because I answer all the messages every day there. I spend a couple hours a day answering messages there to make sure I'm caught up every day. So it's a good place to reach out and say hello. The link in the bio pretty much goes everywhere. ZeroToDiamond.com is the free coaching program. There's a 60-day challenge. We do free one-on-one coaching. I've got about 20 certified coaches that work with us. And it's a community, it's a social media platform as well for you to connect with other agents and stuff like that.
What's your Instagram? What's your Instagram?
My name, Ricky Carruth.
Okay. Easy.
Yeah. And then, of course, I'm on tour. I don't know how many. We probably did a dozen shows this year. I'll be in Vegas next week. I've got Biloxi and Orlando and New York on the books. Actually just got a call from the CEO of Private Property. It's pretty much the Zillow in South Africa. They're bringing me. They wanted me to come in like a couple weeks. I was like, can't pull that off. But
wow,
next year I'm going to go speak at their event. I'm really excited about it because it's a 5,000 person, like all the big wigs of EXP and Remax and Pam Golden, which is a big brokerage over there. Like all the tech companies in South Africa. It's kind of like it's kind of similar to, I guess, Inman here.
Okay. Yeah.
In the U.S. as far as the event goes, put on by private property.
Okay.
So yeah,
Interesting.
dude, they're gonna fly us and the family out. They got a safari. I'm excited about that one.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's
Incredible.
cool. Okay, well, we'll here's our three questions. The first one is, in relation to real estate, what is the best decision you've ever made?
Best decision I ever made was to do real estate.
Easy.
I mean, honestly, I failed a history class. I went to 4 different colleges in 2 years. Didn't know what I was going to do. And when I took the real estate class, I didn't really know, because once I took it, I thought, oh, I'll be a real estate agent forever. It's like on your driver's license. I don't have to do anything. I can just sell houses. But unfortunately, you got to pick a brokerage. You got to take post license. You got to pay your dues every year, and do continuing ed and stuff like that, which I didn't realize when I started taking the class. I was like, oh man, this is too much commitment for me. Like 20 years old, I don't know if I want to do this. And just I did some real soul searching, and I was like, I think I'm going to go for this. And once I commit, it's over. I'm going to go all in. But I knew when I was a real little kid, like, my vision was, I'm going to work really hard, be the hardest working guy in the world, make a lot of money, and then turn around and help people. I had no idea what vehicle I was going to do all that. Like, I had this vision when I was real little. And here I am. I've worked hard, been successful, made money, and now turning around helping people all around the world. It's really surreal, honestly.
Awesome.
But the best decision was committing. Right? Was picking a path and just sticking to it. And even when I lost everything and went back to roofing houses, went bankrupt, sleeping in my car, eating out of people's refrigerators, worked on an oil rig for a year, I never gave up on real estate. I just was kind of taking a break, trying to figure out where I went wrong and how I could come back and really crush it. So,
got to keep punching. Got to keep punching. We say it all the time. What real estate decisions, if any, do you regret?
Do I regret? I regret not getting on social media earlier, honestly, because I didn't touch social media in my real estate business. I didn't touch social media until I started real estate coaching. I still haven't used social media in my real estate business at all, really, to speak of. And I think that was a big mistake that I regret, is just not getting on social earlier and trying to build my brand. I mean, if I would have started building this brand back in 2010, holy smokes, it would be a totally different ball game with the way the platforms were back then.
I'm going to disagree with you. After having this conversation with you, I think that you not being on social media made you the real estate agent, the real estate expert that you are. With banging out the phones and being relational. I think, being slow to social media was part of your success, actually.
Well, honestly, I was reaching there. I really don't have anything I regret. But
that's why I said if any.
Yeah, right. But you're right. I just see that, and it comes back to 2 things that work: going all in. I was blinded. I didn't even see social media. I was so focused on the things I was doing that was working and just building on those activities that it wasn't even on my radar. And you're right. It was a good thing, because it created who I was. And trust me, I'm real happy. There's really not a whole lot of regrets. Any regret I had that was a mistake or a misstep just, helped me learn, and in turn, put me in a position to do better. So you're right.
It's like the Frank Sinatra song, Regrets. I have a few, but then again, too few to mention.
Yep.
Lastly, I think this should be easy for you because of all your coaching. What real estate advice do you have for the next generation?
Well, I mean, it all comes down to a couple things: philosophy, right? Understanding the market cycles, that closings are going to happen every day, no matter what. I mean, even through 2008, the worst real estate crash that we've ever seen. I think it would be pretty tough to beat that one as far as like worst crashes. It could happen, but you still had 4 million sales that year at the low. And so it's just something to really think about, that it's no matter what happens in the market, the relationships you build and how you remarket to those people and accumulate those relationships over time and create that original custom content It doesn't matter what the market does. If you're in sales where you just talk to people, they buy or sell or not, and you forget about them and that's it, and you're just moving on trying to find sales, your business will fluctuate with the market's ups and downs, and you'll crash if the market crashes, and you'll do great if the market's doing great. But if you build your business on branding and having these great conversations and accumulating these relationships and remarketing to these people forever and building that list, you'll withstand any market swing. You'll just continue chugging along, that's the biggest advice I have for the next generation, is just understanding that conversation is the key to all closings. Focus whatever you're doing on how many conversations I can have on a daily basis, and accumulating those people and those great first impressions you're making into a database that you remarket to. I always did a weekly email. Every Wednesday since 2007, I did a weekly email, and it's literally why I closed 100 deals a year for 8 years in a row, because it was really an accumulation of all the people I met back in 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, that I closed all the deals with in 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21.
I just want to say that I hope people really paid attention to what you just said and have said throughout this podcast about the relational aspect of real estate. Every single thing that Clint and I do in all of our businesses are built on relationships and building those relations. Transactions mean nothing to either of us. It's about building those relationships, and the transactions will happen. And it's
you make a good point. And I'll add to it. When I go to a listing appointment or show a buyer or talk to a prospect, I don't care if they buy or sell or not. I could care less, because I'm working the law of large numbers, which means if I'm doing my job to talk to enough people, I'm going to close a certain amount of deals. A certain amount of people won't do deals with me today, but do deals with me tomorrow. And a certain amount will never do business with me, right? They either don't like me or have another agent or whatever the case may be. And that's okay. We're going to build our business on the 20, 30% of people who we talk to who love us to death. And that's another part that a lot of agents can't wrap their head around, is going through all the 70% of people who don't like them or have another agent or whatever. Yeah. And it hurts their heart for no reason, right? They'll never see that person, or, it doesn't it shouldn't affect you whatsoever. It should actually make you smile, because you check the box on that person that they're not going to do business with you. And now we can focus on the people who do.
That's right. Great advice.
Well, we really thank you for coming on, Ricky. It's been a great conversation. Thank you so much. That is our show for today. We thank you for kicking it with the Homeboys. We thank Ricky Carruth for joining us today. Please follow him, 0 to Diamond Coaching. You can also find him, Ricky Carruth, on Instagram and YouTube. If you're an agent, listen to this guy. He's done it, and he can teach you how to do it. If you want to learn work ethic, he's done that too. Follow him. Till next time, happy investing.